Chapter 3 of The Eustace Diamonds. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Carl Hummel. The Eustace Diamonds by Anthony Trollope. Chapter 3. Lucy Morris. Although the first two chapters of this new history have been devoted to the fortunes and personal attributes of Lady Eustace, the historian begs his readers not to believe that the opulent and aristocratic Becky Sharp is to assume the dignity of heroine in the forthcoming pages. That there shall be any heroine this historian will not take upon himself to assert, but if there is to be a heroine, that heroine shall not be Lady Eustace. Poor Lizzie Greystock, as men double her own age, and who had known her as a forward, capricious, spoiled child in her father's lifetime, would still call her. She did so many things, made so many efforts, caused so much suffering to others, and suffered so much herself throughout the scenes with which we are about to deal, that the story can hardly be told without giving her that prominence of place which has been assigned to her in the last two chapters. Nor does the chronicler dare to put forward Lucy Morris as a heroine. The real heroine, if it is found possible to arrange her drapery for her becomingly, and to put that part which she shall enact it into properly heroic words, shall stalk in among us at some considerably later period of the narrative, when the writer shall have accustomed himself to the flow of words, and have worked himself up to a state of mind fit for the reception of noble acting and noble speaking. In the meantime, let it be understood that poor little Lucy Morris was a governess in the house of old Lady Fawn, when our beautiful young widow established herself in Mount Street. Lady Eustace and Lucy Morris had known each other for many years, had indeed been children together, there having been some old family friendship between the Greystocks and the Morrises. When the Admiral's wife was living, Lucy had, as a little girl of 8 or 9, been her guest. She had often been a guest at the deanery. When Lady Eustace had gone down to the Bishop's palace at Bogsborough, in order that an heir to the Eustaces might be born under an auspicious roof, Lucy Morris was with the Greystocks. Lucy, who was a year younger than Lizzie, had at that time been an orphan for the last 4 years. She, too, had been left penniless, but no such brilliant future awaited her as that which Lizzie had earned for herself. There was no countess aunt to take her into London House. The Dean and the Dean's wife and the Dean's daughters had been her best friends, but they were not friends on whom she could be dependent. They were in no way connected with her by blood. Therefore, at the age of 18, she had gone out to be a child's governess. Then old Lady Fawn had heard of her virtues. Lady Fawn, who had 7 unmarried daughters running down from 27 to 13, and Lucy Morris had been hired to teach English, French, German, and something of music to the 2 youngest Miss Fawns. During that visit at the deanery, when the heir of the Eustaces was being born, Lucy was undergoing a sort of probation for the Fawn establishment. The proposed engagement with Lady Fawn was thought to be a great thing for her. Lady Fawn was known as a miracle of virtue, benevolence, and persistency. Every good quality that she possessed was so marked as to be worthy of being expressed with a capital. But her virtues were that of extraordinarily high character, that there were no weaknesses in them, no getting over them, no perverting them with follies or even exaggerations. When she heard of the excellencies of Miss Morris from the Dean's wife, and then, after the minutest investigation, learned the exacting qualities of the young lady, she expressed herself willing to take Lucy into her house on special conditions. She must be able to teach music up to a certain point. "Then it's all over," said Lucy to the Dean with her pretty smile, that smile which caused all the old and middle-aged men to fall in love with her. "It's not over at all," said the Dean. "You've got 4 months. Our organist is about as good a teacher as there is in England. You are clever and quick, and he shall teach you." So Lucy went to Bobsborough, and was afterwards accepted by Lady Fawn. While she was at the deanery, there sprung up a renewed friendship between her and Lizzie. It was indeed chiefly a one-sided friendship, for Lucy, who was quick and unconsciously capable of reading that book to which we alluded in a previous chapter, was somewhat afraid of the rich widow, and when Lizzie talked to her of their old childish days, and quoted poetry, and spoke of things romantic, as she was much given to do, Lucy felt that the medal did not ring true. And then Lizzie had an ugly habit of abusing all her other friends behind their backs. Now Lucy did not like to hear the Greystocks abused, and would say so. "That's all very well, you little minx," Lizzie would say playfully, "but you know they are all asses." Lucy by no means thought the Greystocks were asses, and was very strongly of the opinion that one of them was as far removed from being an ass as any human being she had ever known. This one was Frank Greystock, the barrister. Of Frank Greystock some special, but, let it be hoped, very short, description must be given by and by. For the present it will be sufficient to declare that, during that short Easter holiday which he spent at his father's house in Bobsborough, he found Lucy Morris to be a most agreeable companion. "Remember her position," said Mrs. Dean to her son. "Her position? Well, and what is her position, mother?" "You know what I mean, Frank. She is as sweet a girl as ever lived, and a perfect lady. But with a governess, unless you mean to marry her, you should be more careful than with another girl, because you may do her such a world of mischief." "I don't see that at all." "If Lady Fawn knew that she had an admirer, Lady Fawn would not let her come into her house." "Then Lady Fawn is an idiot. If a girl can be admirable, of course she will be admired. Who can hinder it?" "You know what I mean, Frank." "Yes, I do. Well, I don't suppose I can afford to marry Lucy Morris. At any rate, mother, I will never say a word to raise a hope in her, if it would be a hope." "Of course it would be a hope." "I don't know that at all. But I will never say any such word to her, unless I can make up my mind that I can afford to marry her." "Oh, Frank, it would be impossible," said Mrs. Dean. Mrs. Dean was a very good woman, but she had aspirations in the direction of filthy lucre on behalf of her children, or at least on behalf of this special child, and she did think it would be very nice if Frank would marry an heiress. This, however, was a long time ago, nearly 2 years ago, and many grave things had gotten themselves transacted since Lucy's visit to the deanery. She had become quite an old and an accustomed member of Lady Fawn's family. The youngest Fawn girl was not yet 15, and it was understood that Lucy was to remain with the Fawns for some quite indefinite time to come. Lady Fawn's eldest daughter, Mrs. Hadoway, had a family of her own, having been married 10 or 12 years, and it was quite probable that Lucy might be transferred. Lady Fawn fully appreciated her treasure, and was, and ever had been, conscientiously anxious to make Lucy's life happy. But she thought that a governess should not be desirous of marrying, at any rate till a somewhat advanced period of life. A governess, if she were given to falling in love, could hardly perform her duties in life. No doubt, not to be a governess, but a young lady free from the embarrassing necessity of earning bread, free to have a lover and a husband, would be on the whole nicer. So it is nicer to be born to 10,000 a year than to have to wish for 500. Lady Fawn could talk excellent sense on this subject by the hour, and always admitted that much was due a governess who knew her place and did her duty. She was very fond of Lucy Morris, and treated her dependent with affectionate consideration, but she did not approve of visits from Mr. Frank Greystock. Lucy, blushing up to the eyes, had once declared that she desired to have no personal visitors at Lady Fawn's house, but that, as regarded her own friendships, the matter was one for her own bosom. "Dear Mrs. Morris," Lady Fawn had said, "we understand each other so perfectly